In this video, I'll be going over long division, but with polynomials. So just remember as we're going through this process that polynomial long division is just like if we were to just do good old long division with numbers. So like here, for example, we would always divide starting into the first number, right? So like 5 divided into 8. Well, 5 goes into 8 one time. Then we would go through and multiply. So 1 times 5 is 5, but it didn't stay positive 5, right? Then we would change it to a negative. We would subtract. So 8 minus 5 is 3. Then I would bring down my 7. Then same thing all over again. I would divide 5 into 37, which is 7. Then again, multiply, which gives you 35. But then we wouldn't leave it positive, right? Make it a negative. Subtract to get 2. Then bring down. 5 goes into 22 4 times. Then we would multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract 2, bring down the 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times because 5 times 5 is 25. Then now when you would subtract, you get 0. And then if we had 0, if you think about it, that means this was always the remainder. And in this case, because 0 is a remainder, 5 is a factor of 8,725. So keep in mind our long division, right? We always divided into that first value. We focused on the first, right? Whatever was first. Then after we divided into that, we would multiply, then we would subtract, and then we would bring down. That is the same steps when we are focusing on long division with our polynomials. Just in this case, the multiplying is going to be a little different because now instead of just one term like 5, we're going to divide here. I'll show you. We'll get to where we have examples where we're now dividing, but we have two terms like x plus 3. But let's first just focus on one term like a monomial. But notice here in the steps, we still need to focus on standard form of our polynomial. We're going to again only focus on the first term. Now here when we distribute, that is our multiply step. So keep that in mind when we are going to end up distributing. But this is our multiply. So first term, multiply, subtract, bring down. So notice it is all the same steps. And then keep in mind if we do have a remainder, we will write that as a fraction. So here I'm going to set up my division. So 2x, here is my divisor. And then let's set up our dividend. So 2x cubed minus 4x squared minus 8x. Notice how we are in standard form. Now I'm going to divide. First term into the first term. Well, focus on the values, right? 2 goes into 2 one time. But here I have 1x. How many more x's do I need? Just 2. So x squared. So when I multiply, I'm going to end up getting my 2x cubed. But then remember, we're not just going to leave it as a positive, right? Just like before, now I'm going to subtract. So here they get me my 0. Cancel out, gone. So now I'm going to bring down negative 4x squared. Then same thing, now divide 2 into negative 4. Well, 2 into negative 4, negative 2. Then notice we have 1x, but we have 2 x's here, so I just need one more x. So when I multiply, I do have negative 4x squared. And now notice we're not just subtracting. If you think about it, we're also going to change the sign. So that's not negative, but now a positive. This cancels out to give me my 0. Bring down negative 8x. So again, 2 into negative 8. 2 goes into negative 8, negative 4. Then x and another x, so I don't need any more x's, I'm good. When I multiply, you do get that negative 8x. But then, of course, we change the sign. So now that's 0, so I have a remainder of 0. So 2x is a factor of that polynomial because you ended up with a remainder of 0. So go ahead and pause the video here. Try this one on your own. Now, this one's just a little different because here how we had 1 the exponent of x and we just subtracted, right? 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Notice how now you are starting with 2 x's. So keep that in mind, how many now you're going to take away when you're dividing into our 2 terms. So pause it here. Let's see what you get. And here we go. So I'm going to divide 3x squared into 9x cubed minus 18x squared. Focus on the numbers first if you need to. Break it apart, right? 3 goes into 9 3 times. Then 3, take away 2, I only need 1 more x. So now when you multiply here, you have your 9x cubed. Remember now, we're going to subtract or change the sign. So I'm going to subtract, and there's my 0 canceled out. Bring down negative 18x squared. Focus on the numbers again. 3 goes into negative 8, negative 6. Then here you have 2 and 2, so now I don't need any more. I'm good. So here when you multiply, you do get that negative 18x squared. But then remember, right, we're going to change the sign so that negative becomes positive, and you now have 0. So again, 3x squared is a factor of that polynomial, and your final answer, 3x minus 6. So now let's get into if you had a divisor but had 2 terms, not just 1. So let's set up our division here. So our divisor is x plus 3. Then our dividend, x cubed minus 3x squared minus 6x plus 8. So now focus again, but only on the first term. So we're going to only divide x into each of our terms here. So only focus on the first term. So x going into x cubed. Well, we have 3 x's, I have 1, so now that means I need 2 more x's, x squared. So now we're going to multiply. But here's now the difference, because we're going to distribute. So x squared times x, absolutely, you get that x cubed. But also multiply. X squared times 3, giving you 3x squared. So notice how we're going to distribute when we're multiplying here. That means when we're subtracting, change the sign. So that means this is not only a negative, but so is 3x squared. So x cubed minus x cubed, 0, gone. But negative 3 minus 3, negative 6x squared. Bring down now the next term, negative 6x. Now we're going to go again. Only divide the first term into our first term here. So in this case, we have x, well, that's just negative 6, but then 2x is 1x, so now we just need 1 more x. So when you multiply, you know you're going to get negative 6x squared, but then don't forget to multiply that negative 6 to also 3. Negative 6 times 3, negative 18x. Negative 6 times 3, negative 18. Then again now we're going to subtract or change the sign. So positive, positive. This now ends up being 0, canceling out. But negative 6 plus 18 is 12. So 12x. Bring down now, right? So after we subtract, bring down our 8. Now last time, x, 12x. Well, that's just 12 here, right? Because that's 1, so plus 12. And we already had 1x, so x divided by x, you get 0. Also notice in the answer how we constantly are decreasing. So we started at 2, 1, and 0. So when you multiply here, you know you're going to get that 12x, but don't forget to multiply now that 12 times also 3. 12 times 3 is 36. Last time, subtract, change the sign. So subtract and negative. So when I subtract, you get 0, but 8 minus 36 is now negative 28. So that means here my final answer, because we do have a remainder, that is negative 28 over x plus 3. That is your remainder over the divisor. So here, pause the video, try this one, and let's see what you get. And here we go. I'm going to set up my divisor of x minus 6. So x cubed minus 4x squared minus 5x minus 37. And again, focus on the first term. So x into the first term. I have 3 x's, 1 x, so I only need 2 more x's. So I know when I multiply, you have x cubed, but don't forget to also multiply to the negative 6. So that is negative 6x squared. Then subtract or change the sign. So subtraction, but now addition. That's going to give me 0, but negative 4 plus 6, now 2x squared. Then bring down negative 5x. Here we go. Now we're going to divide only into the first term again. So x, 2x squared. So I need 2, but 2x's, 1x, so just left with 1x. So now when I multiply, I know I've got 2x squared. But don't forget to multiply the 2x also to the negative 6, giving you negative 12x. Now again, before we full on subtract, change the sign. So this is now negative and positive. So when I cancel out, here I've got negative 5 plus 12, which is 7x. Bring down negative 37. Last time, here we go. X going into only 7x. Well, that's just 7 because I already have my 1x that I need here. So when I multiply, you do get 7x, but don't forget to multiply to the negative 6. So 7 times negative 6 is negative 42. So that last step, subtract or change the sign. So negative and positive. So that cancels out. Negative 37 plus 42, positive 5. So that is your remainder. So positive 5 over x minus 6. So the final answer is x squared plus 2x plus 7 plus 5 over x minus 6. So showing that remainder of 5, which means, is x minus 6 a factor? No, because you got a remainder of 5. So now let's do the example, but notice just the only difference here is we have that coefficient, which is 2. So focus on the numbers first if you need to. So our divisor, 2x plus 2, and dividend, 2x squared plus 10x plus 8. So again, focus on just the first term. So 2x going into 2x squared. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 2 x's and 1x, I only need 1 more x. So now when I multiply, I know I'm going to have 2x squared, but don't forget to multiply the x to the 2 as well here to distribute. 2 times x, 2x. Now what do? Subtract or change the sign. Good. So this is now a negative, and this is also a negative. That's going to give me 0 gone, but 10 minus 2 is now 8, so 8x. Now what do? Bring down. Good. So now bring down the plus 8. Here we go again. Go back to focusing on the first term. 2x into 8x. Well, 2 divided into 8 is 4. And then we only have our 1x that we need, so we're good to go. 4 times, because I know that's going to give me 8x. But don't forget to also multiply 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Then what do we do after we distribute? Subtract, change the sign. So this becomes a negative, but this is also a negative. So 8x minus 8x, there's your 0. And 8 minus 8 is also 0. So that means with a remainder of 0, 2x plus 2 is a factor. That means your final answer is just x plus 4. So go ahead now, pause the video and try this one. Let's see what you get. And here we go. So I'm going to set up my divisor, 3x minus 5. So I've got 6x squared minus 7x minus 5. Here we go. First term into the first term. Well, 3 goes into 6 2 times. I have 2 x's, 1 x, so now I just have my 1 x. So I know when I multiply, I have 6x squared, but don't forget to multiply the 2x to the what? Negative 5. 2 times negative 5, negative 10, so negative 10x. Now what do I do? Subtract or change the sign. Negative, positive. So that's going to give me 0, negative 7 plus 10, 3x. After we subtract, what do we always do? Bring down. So bring down now the negative 5. Again, here we go. First term into first term. 3 goes into 3 once, and we already have our 1x. So really, we do need that 1 here because 3 divided by 3 is 1. So when I multiply, you do get 3x. But don't forget to also multiply, right? That 1 times negative 5, which is negative 5. And now what do we do? Subtract or change the sign. So negative and positive. 3x minus 3x, 0. But notice how negative 5 plus 5 is also 0, giving you a remainder of 0. So again, 3x minus 5 is a factor because you get a remainder of 0. So your answer is just 2x plus 1. Now, these two examples are a little different. So here we have done this type of problem, but you'll notice something a little different in this problem. So we'll go through this example together. So again here, x plus 1, 2x to the fourth, plus 2x cubed, plus x squared minus x minus 1. So now I'm going to divide, right? First term into the first term. Well, here I've just got my 2. So 2, I have 4 x's, I have 1 x, so now I just need 3 x's, 1 less. When I multiply, I know I'm going to get 2x to the fourth, but don't forget to distribute to the positive 1. So that's now going to give you 2x cubed. Then change the signs. So negative and a negative. Well, that's going to give me 0, but notice 2x cubed minus 2x cubed is also 0. So notice this case, we always had a term here, which means if you notice going back to the previous, we always had 2 terms that we were dividing. We always had 2 terms. But now we only have nothing. So that means we're not only going to bring down the first term, we're going to also bring down the second term to continue with our 2 terms. Same thing, divide the first into the first. So I've got 2 x's dividing by 1, so I just need 1 more x, because when I multiply, x times x is x squared. But don't forget to also multiply that x by 1, which gives you positive x, positive 1x. Then change the sign. So that's negative and negative. X squared minus x squared is 0. Now be careful because that doesn't give you 0. That's a negative 1 minus 1. Negative 2x. Bring down the last term here, negative 1. Same thing, focus on first term into first term. Well, that's just negative 2 and 1x divided by that 1x, we have what we need. So negative 2 times x, negative 2x. But don't forget to also multiply, right? That negative 2 to the positive 1, giving you negative 2. Then, of course, last step, change the signs. So this becomes positive and positive. So negative 2 plus 2, that's our 0. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. So we do have a remainder of positive 1. So we don't forget to write that as plus 1 over x plus 1. So is x plus 1 a factor? No, because you got a remainder of 1. Now the second example is also a little different. So here, I'm going to set up and also see how it's given to you in function notation. Just notice how I have f divided by g. So we're just dividing the two functions. So same thing here. I've got my divisor, x minus 2. But now notice, I go from x to the fourth and drop to x squared. That means we are missing our x cubed. Then it goes to x and then 0. So we cannot skip that when we're writing our long division. That means after 2x to the fourth, well, what number represents nothing? 0. So we're going to actually put 0x cubed as that placeholder for that x cubed here. Then continue. Plus x squared minus 11x plus 32. Now we can get started with our long division here. So remember, if you're ever missing, use that 0 as your placeholder. Here we go. So same as before, first term into the first term. Well, here I've just got 1, but here I've just got 2. So 2, then 4 x's, 1x, 3 more x's. So now I know when I multiply, I've got 2x to the fourth, but don't forget to distribute to the negative 2. 2 times negative 2, negative 4. So negative 4x cubed. Then now what do? Change the sign. Good. So a negative and a positive now. So that's 0. But 0 plus 4 is now 4x cubed. Then what do? Bring down. Good. So plus x squared. Here we go again. First term into the first term. Well, that's just 4. 3 x's, 1x, so now I need 2 more x's. So when I multiply, I've got my 4x cubed, but don't forget to distribute to the negative 2. 4 times negative 2, negative 8x squared. Then what do? Change the sign. That's a negative and now a positive. So when I subtract, I've got 0, but 1 plus 8 is now 9x squared. Now what do? Bring down. Good. Negative 11x. Here we go again. Divide first term into the first term. Well, that's just 9. I have 2 x's, 1 x, so I just need 1 more x. Because when I multiply, there's my 9x squared, but don't forget to distribute the 9x to the negative 2. So now I've got negative 18x. Then what do? Change the sign. So that's negative and now positive. So those cancel out to give me 0. Negative 11 plus 18, positive 7x. Then now what do? Bring down that last term. Good. Plus 32. Last time, divide the first into the first. So x into 7x. Well, that's just 7, and we already have our 1x that we need here, so just 7. Because when I multiply, there's your 7x, but don't forget to multiply the 7 to negative 2, which is negative 14. Now what do? Change the signs. So now that gives me my 0, but 32 plus 14 is 46. So that is your remainder. So plus 46 over x minus 2. So notice how, because again, the remainder, x minus 2 is not a factor. So again, if you ever have 2 terms cancel out, then you do have to bring 2 terms, oops, sorry guys, you do have to bring 2 terms down. Then in the second one, see how we were missing an exponent? So you do need to use 0 as that placeholder. So try this, pause the video, and let's see what you get. And here we go. So let's see. Well, you should have noticed something about our dividend, f of x. It was missing an x squared term. Good. So again, we have our function notation. We're dividing, but don't forget that means you were supposed to use 0 for the placeholder for x squared. So I'm going to set up my divisor, x plus 4. Then our dividend, you should have set it up as x cubed plus 0x squared minus the 7x minus 14. Then divide first term into first term. Well, that's just x going into x cubed. I just need 2 more x's. So now I've got x cubed, but don't forget to multiply to the positive 4, giving you 4x squared. Now change the sign. So here, that gives you 0, but 0 minus 4, negative 4x squared. Then bring down negative 7x. Same thing again, divide first term into the first term. Well, that's just negative 4 here. 2 x's by 1 x, so I need 1 more x. So when I multiply, I will get my negative 4x squared, but don't forget to multiply negative 4x by 4, negative 16x. Then change the signs again. Good. So positive, positive. So that will give me 0. But negative 7 plus 16, you should have gotten 9. So 9x. Then bring down negative 14. So here we go again, last time. First term x into our first term 9x. Well, that's just 9 because we already have the 1x that we need. Because when you multiply, that does give you 9x. But don't forget to multiply 9 times 4. 9 times 4 is 36. Then what do we do here? Change the signs. So negative and negative. So when you subtract, you get 0, negative 14 minus 36, negative 50. And that is your remainder. So the answer is x squared minus 4x plus 9, but minus 50 over x plus 4. That is your remainder. So again, x plus 4 is not a factor of this polynomial because you got a remainder of negative 50. So with this last extension problem, notice how it's all the same except now you have 3 terms. So how about if you're trying this one, pause the video, just keep in mind instead of distributing to just one other, you're now distributing to 2 other terms. So try this one and let's see what you get. And let's see how you did here. So notice how, again, function notation is showing us we're dividing f of x by g of x. So I'm going to set up my divisor here, x squared minus 2x minus 3. Then dividing into x cubed plus 3x squared minus 13x minus 15. Same thing, only divide the first term into the first term. Well, if I had 3 x's, dividing in by 2 x's, now you have 1 x. So when you multiply, you have x cubed here. Oh my goodness gracious. Sorry guys, hold on one second. My dog is here. Then multiply, but to both of the terms. So x times negative 2x, negative 2x squared from x times x, as well as negative 3 times x, negative 3x. So now make sure you change the signs, but of every term here. So that becomes negative, positive, and a positive. So that cancels out. But now 3 plus 2 is 5x squared, and negative 13 plus 3 is negative 10x. Then bring down negative 15. Same thing, I'm going to distribute my x squared first term only into the first term here. So here I've got my 5, and then that's all you need because you had 2 x's dividing 2 x's, so no more x's needed. When you multiply, you do get your 5x squared here, but don't forget to distribute that 5 to both terms. So this becomes negative 10x and negative 15. But then notice here, what do we need to do? Change the sign. So a negative, positive, and positive. So that cancels out to give me 0. This cancels out to give me 0. And this cancels out to give me 0. So what did it mean when you had a remainder of 0? That this expression here, this polynomial, is a factor of our polynomial given to us. So the answer is just x plus 5.